And joining us today in our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who's written a book that provides some very interesting information about dieting and how you can lose weight. It's called Eat Q, Unlock the Weight Loss Power of Emotional Intelligence. We're joined today by Susan Albers. She's a clinical psychologist at the Cleveland Clinic Family Health Center in Cleveland, Ohio. And she joined us on the telephone today. And Susan, good to talk to you. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much. I appreciate being here and being able to tell you about the new book, Eat Q.
Yeah, good to have a chance to chat with you for a few minutes. I didn't get the book in time to finish it, but I had a chance to look through it a little bit, and I look forward to reading it after we chat. And I guess one of the problems when you write a book about losing weight, there's a lot out there on the topic. I know you kind of take a little different approach to it, but was that kind of a challenge for you to put this together and kind of, get above the fray?
Right. Well, you really hit the nail on the head. Is that you may be somebody who has all of these diet books and weight loss books on your shelf, and you really want something that's going to work, something that's easy, effective. So in my book, I outline 25 different tools that you can use to help you to stop stress eating and eat more mindfully. So because we all tend to mindlessly eat throughout the day. And so I've outlined some easy tips. So let me give you an example of one that you may find in the book and to show you how easy it can be. So today, if you're listening, if you're right-handed, try eating with your left hand, your non-dominant hand. Because what research shows is that you can reduce how much you eat by about 30% because it breaks up that automatic hand-to-mouth flow that we all tend to have when we eat.
Right.
So that's something that you can give a try today.
That's a good tip, yeah, when you're using that dominant hand, you're probably not thinking about what you're doing as much as if you use the offhand. You may concentrate more, and you may not eat as much. It's a good idea. Yeah,
it's like writing with. You can write with your opposite hand. It takes more effort and more thought, and it kind of feels strange, but you can do it. So this is a really easy tip. I was also just in Europe a few weeks ago, and in Europe they tend to pierce their food. They turn their fork upside down and pierce food to eat with it. We as Americans scoop. So that's another thing you can do is turn your fork upside down, and that's going to break up that automatic hand-to-mouth flow that we tend to get into when we eat. We all need to just slow down a little bit.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I guess you could also say with folks that use the chopsticks, too, that's a different way of eating, and it's harder to do that, too. That might be a good thing to do, huh? If you don't use chopsticks, use chopsticks.
Yep, anything that's going to slow you down is going to help. But I've got lots of different stories throughout the book, and a lot of tips to deal with stress eating, but a whole chapter is devoted to pleasure eating because I'm somebody who is a big advocate of it's okay to enjoy food. We're all going to enjoy food. We have the holidays coming up, and what we really need is a plan or a strategy for being able to eat the foods we love without going overboard.
And food has always been attached to emotion anyway. Since you're a kid, your mom gives you something to eat, not only at dinner time, but maybe to make you feel better if, you fall down and hurt yourself or something like that. So it starts way back then, doesn't it, the whole emotion and food connection?
It does. I tell a story about my own family that my mom's side of the family is the Italian side. Every single holiday is all about the food. They love to feed people. My dad's side, he grew up on a farm. And it was a very utilitarian relationship to food that they ate what they had, from, the apples on the trees to the beef cattle that were in their barn. So, for them, when they were deciding what to eat, my mom would always say, what do you feel like having? And he would say, what do we have? So we all have our own food cultures that we grow up with about how we relate emotionally to food. And you can kind of unravel that throughout the book. And so it's really interesting.
Stress, obviously, is a big one. People under stress tend to eat what they call comfort food. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but you can overdo that, right?
Right. And so I have an entire chapter dedicated to stress eating because by far that is the number one issue that people talk to me about. And it stands in the way of weight loss because when you're stressed, your body's pumped through full of cortisol, that stress hormone that makes you crave sugary, fatty, salty foods. So I talk about ways to de-stress, and one of my very favorite foods, if you're somebody who likes to eat when you're stressed, is a mandarin orange, because you have to, you have to peel it. It's easier to peel than an orange, and it's kind of that meditative moment that you tune in, and it helps you to de-stress and boost your immunity a little bit with that little boost of vitamin C.
Do we know why the human body craves foods that aren't that great for us? And why doesn't it also crave some good things?
Wow, it goes way back to our biological caveman days. But what's interesting now is that our palates have become so warped around food that we eat a lot of sugary, salty foods, and we don't even really realize. Even sweeteners, if you put sweetener in your coffee, is 300 to 600 times sweeter than regular sugar. So if you think about that, our taste buds, are just expecting more and more and more fat and salt and sugar. And so we program our bodies to crave that every single day. So I understand why it's so tough to get around, but when you start to change your habits, you no longer crave that level of sugar and sweet. In fact, it becomes too much.
Mm. Talk a little bit about the term emotional intelligence. I know you go through quite a bit in the book about it, but maybe a capsule summary, if you would, and how it ties to food.
Yeah, the title of the book, EQ, will remind you of the term IQ, which is a test of your ability to remember facts and do math problems and things like that. EI is actually emotional intelligence, and probably many people are familiar with that topic. They may own the book Emotional Intelligence. And so in the book, I talk about how to become an emotionally intelligent eater. So that's about being able to make food decisions in the way that you intend, not just, many of my clients will say, I really wanted to make that good choice, and then all of a sudden I'm eating the hamburger and I don't even know what happened. So being an emotionally intelligent eater is being able to make the choices that you want, even when you're stressed, even when you're feeling emotional. And boy, this is a task. So I talk a lot in the book about different strategies for making decisions that are based on the emotional intelligence skills. A lot about impulse control. So here's another tip that people can try today, and a different technique. So you can play the game of Simon Says with yourself, because this is kind of an impulse-raising skill. Take a few steps, say in the middle of that walking, stop. Or take a drink, and in the middle say stop to yourself. Because what you're doing is building up that impulse control, so the next time that you open up the bag of chips and you say stop, that you actually can do it. Because, boy, this is a tough one for many of us, to say stop and actually do it.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. I think so many people, too, eat while they're doing something else now, whether in the office or just watching TV. You're doing it almost hypnotically, aren't you? You're not quite sure how much you're eating at a... but you don't really think about it because your mind is elsewhere.
Right. I always say that we can eat an entire plate of food and not taste one single bite because we're so zoned out. And, this holiday season, people are going to be eating lots of candy. And I always think that, we're always thinking about the next piece of candy before we actually eat the one that we have and really finish it and savor it. So part of the skill of enjoying food is savoring it more, slowing down, and really enjoying it, because that's when we go for more. When we don't really enjoy it, we eat it mindlessly, that zombie eating that we all do. So when you start to enjoy it more, you can eat less because you enjoy it more.
Well, great information in the book, and it's called Eat Q, Unlock the Weight Loss Power of Emotional Intelligence, and just in time to not necessarily keep people from enjoying the holiday food, but just be aware of what you're doing, right?
Right, and people can go to my website, which is eatq.com, EATQ.com, and they can find all different kinds of tips and resources. If they like my Facebook page, I'm always sending different motivational statements and how they can find more information.
Yeah, I was on there a little bit earlier, and you also tweet. I saw some of your tweets up there as well. So it adds a whole new dimension to your practice, doesn't it, Doctor?
It does, yeah. So go to my website, EQ.com, and you get lots of information.
Susan Albers has been our guest. And Susan, I know you spent some time down in our area, a little bit south of us, and hopefully sometime when you're in the area, or if not, we'll do another phone interview sometime. But thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.